November 1974, and one of the deadliest attacks of the Troubles.
2 Birmingham public houses are bombed, killing 21 and injuring 160.
But did West Midlands Police know in advance after a tip-off from an IRA informer? It's just one of many questions that could be answered if a coroner rules that inquests into the 21 who died will be reopened. The IRA has never officially claimed responsibility, but we've spoken to one of the group's former spy masters, now based in Dublin, who recently revealed new details about the atrocities.
I feel remorse. I feel that it was appalling.
Kieran Conway was in charge of intelligence and was at an IRA safe house when a debriefing was held following the attacks.
The men had explained that it was fully intended to give a warning, but that they had not been able to find a functioning phone box in time. A warning was in fact delivered, but it was far too late.
But do you think that's an acceptable explanation of what went wrong?
No, I don't. It made me absolutely ashamed to be a member of the IRA. I briefly considered resignation.
But you didn't resign?
No, had I discovered that the bombings were deliberate, I think I would have resigned. But I was satisfied that they weren't deliberate, that they were due to the bombers not being sufficiently trained in how to do these things. I was trained to plant bombs. I planted bombs, and the protocol was that a 30-minute warning was always given.
Although that 30-minute warning was never given in Birmingham, there has long been suspicion that the police had had a tip-off but failed to act on it.
I think it's probably true. It fits a pattern. There was a lot of stuff like that in the north as well.
That's quite shocking, though, to think that the police knew.
It is. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be unprecedented, as I say. It happened in the north many times.
The men who planted the Birmingham bombs have never faced justice, and yet the authorities have long known who they are. 2 of those men have since died, but to the frustration of many, 2 others are still living freely here in Ireland. It seems that unless they come forward voluntarily, there's little prospect that they will ever be convicted.
Bring back capital punishment! You're too liberal-minded!
In the immediate aftermath of the bombings, the police came under huge pressure to make arrests. Within hours, they had detained a group of innocent men who would come to be known as the Birmingham Six, after wrongfully spending 16 years in prison.
The police told us from the start that they knew we hadn't done it. They told us they didn't care who done it. They told us that we were selected and that they were going to frame us just to keep the people in there happy. That's what it's all about.
Paddy Hill is today supporting relatives of those who died in calling for the inquest to be resumed. They want to know why the original police investigation lasted barely 48 hours and why information that contradicted their official narrative was apparently ignored.
About 9 o'clock, I was there about 9 o'clock, and the station sergeant came through. He said there's been some bombs in the city centre and all detectives that go to Lloyd House.
Eric Francis was a detective inspector with West Midlands Police on duty on the night of the bombings.
Well, I remember it perfectly well. It's something you can't forget.
2 bombs exploded that night, but there was also a third device left in a shop doorway which failed to explode. Mr. Francis says he was sent to investigate it and concluded that the timing and location of this third device meant that the 6 men being questioned couldn't have been responsible. Yet he claims when he tried to raise this, he was ignored.
I rang him up and told him about the third bomb. He said, "You carry on with your duties and leave the bombs to me."
Do you think you should have said more at the time about the third
You can't talk to these people. No, hopeless. No, they didn't want to know. They were run. They thought they cracked it. They cracked it. They weren't going to listen to me or anybody else.
West Midlands Police told us they cannot provide comment on Mr. Francis's claims until the issue of the inquests is resolved. The third device could have provided crucial forensics, but it's one of around 35 pieces of original evidence that have been lost.
Do you think that the men who committed this crime will ever be brought to justice?
No, I don't. And I don't believe that there's any evidence that would stand up in court against any of the suspects.
Mr Conway did eventually leave the IRA and now works as a solicitor.
The whole campaign was a futile, useless waste of lives, in my view, yes.
For those seeking the truth and accountability about what happened more than 40 years ago, a new inquest represents their final hope of getting to it, even if the perpetrators never face justice. Darshna Soni, Channel 4 News.